Chapter 1, System. I am host 12138's daughter. I request to leave this world. On a cold winter's night, the fire in the fireplace burned brightly, casting flickering shadows on the white wall beside it. Elara Silverwood stared at the heavily falling snow, slowly removing the plain silver necklace from her neck as she spoke softly. A moment later, a cold, mechanical voice abruptly sounded in the quiet bedroom. Request received. The system is processing. You will be extracted from this world in 15 days. The instant the voice faded, Elara realized the necklace in her palm had vanished into thin air. At the same time, Damian Hawthorne's interview began playing on the television. The new jewelry series being launched is called Love, Elara. Mr. Hawthorne, could you tell us if there's any special meaning behind it? Hearing the host's question, the main guest, Damian Hawthorne, gave a very gentle smile, his eyes filled with warmth. Elara is my wife's name. The meaning of this series' name is that I will love her for a lifetime. The host, caught off guard by this public display of affection, couldn't hide her knowing, almost maternal smile. Online news says that you and your wife were each other's first love, married as soon as you reached legal age, and your relationship is still so stable and sweet after 5 years of marriage. Do you have any secrets to a lasting romance? Secrets. Probably just listening to whatever my wife says, replying to her messages instantly, and preparing surprises for her every day. Damian Hawthorne's string of shared experiences elicited envious cheers from the audience, with gasps of admiration echoing through the studio. Oh my gosh, I wish heaven would grant me such a domineering yet devoted boyfriend. A catch D-man Hawthorne, when will it be my turn to be Mrs.? Hawthorne, hearing the unceasing exclamations from below, Damian Hawthorne smiled, his eyes crinkling, his voice soft. Apologies, Damian Hawthorne belongs only to Elara Silverwood. A tide of applause, like an unending wave, rose as the interview neared its end. Watching Damian Hawthorne's figure gradually blur and fade, Elara turned off the TV, a sarcastic smile tugging at her lips. Damian Hawthorne belongs only to Elara Silverwood. Perhaps once that was true. After all, they were childhood sweethearts, started dating at 15, married at 22 from school uniforms to a wedding dress. Everyone around her envied her for finding such a devoted and affectionate partner. He would fill his social media feed with her photos, proactively keeping his distance from all other women. He had lit up the entire city with fireworks for 3 days during their wedding, just to announce to the world that he had married his most beloved girl. When she was diagnosed with kidney failure, he had unhesitatingly donated his kidney to her, because if she died, he wouldn't want to live either. 7 years of dating, 5 years of marriage. He truly hadn't failed the vows he made when he confessed his love. But so what? People change. Her father had, and Damian Hawthorne was no exception. At 27, Elara's father, Raymond Silverwood, had betrayed her mother, getting involved with his secretary, causing her mother's heart to die, leading her to leave this world completely. This year, at 26, Damian Hawthorne had also betrayed her, hiding his good friend's sister, keeping her as a mistress. The exact same script was playing out again, more than 20 years later. And this time, Elara made the same choice as her mother. If he betrayed her, she would disappear. She touched her now bare neck, suddenly remembering the words her mother had spoken to her before she left. Elara, Mom isn't from this world. I came here to complete a mission. Now the mission is complete and your father has betrayed me, so Mom is going home. Before I go, I'm giving you this necklace. If you ever feel unhappy, use it to summon the system and leave this world forever, to come to my side. Leave this world forever. Just as Elara wished. She chuckled softly, slowly removing her wedding ring and tossing it into the fireplace. The moment she closed the door, a soft thud came from behind her. Damian Hawthorne, covered in snow from the storm, pushed open the door, a bouquet of vibrant red roses in his arms, which he presented to her with a beaming smile. Elara, I had a meeting today, so I'm a bit late. Sorry for making you wait up for me. Elara received such beautiful flowers every day. But today's bouquet had an unusually strong fragrance, as if trying to mask something. She placed the flowers on the table and suddenly smelled the strong perfume clinging to him. So, it was to cover up that woman's scent. Elara suppressed the pain in her heart, looked up, and saw a faint red mark peeking out from his collar. She had cried all her tears, so this time she only glanced at it before looking away, speaking indifferently. "It's fine. From now on, come back whenever you want. You don't even have to come back at all. Don't worry about what I think." Just as he didn't need to know that she only had 15 days left in this world. Chapter 2, hearing her utter these words in such a flat tone, Damian Hawthorne's heart skipped a beat. "Alara, please don't be angry with me, okay? I promise I won't come back this late again. I swear, I'll do anything if you forgive me." It was such a trivial matter, yet he held her, groveling and placating her, placing her slightest feelings in the most important position. She didn't understand. Why would someone who seemed to love her so desperately betray her? Yet she had to play along with him for 15 more days, so she could only force down the pain in her heart. "I'm really not angry. I just think you don't need to treat my emotions as so important." How could I not? "I love you so much, Alara. In my eyes, the whole world doesn't compare to you." He smiled, continuing to whisper sweet nothings in her ear. She said nothing, but Damian suddenly glanced at her neck. It was bare. "Alara, where's your necklace?" He knew it was the thing her mother, Miranda, had left her before disappearing. She cherished it, always wore it, never took it off. Alara stiffened slightly, lowered her eyes, her voice barely audible. "It broke. I sent it for repair." Seeing her expression, Damian thought her unhappiness today was because the necklace reminded her of her mother, and he quickly offered some comfort. "It'll be fixed, Alara. Don't be sad. Your mother will come back to you too. Even though she vanished into thin air all these years, I've never given up looking for her." How could someone just disappear from the world without a reason? She must be hiding. "Trust me, I'll reunite you and your mother." Alara Corjan forced a smile. She would indeed be reunited with her mother very soon. "What about my dad? How has he been lately?" Damian froze for a moment, then sighed softly. "Still the same. Incoherent at the psychiatric hospital, constantly muttering your mother's name." He got what he deserved. Alara enunciated each word. Then she looked up at the man before her, whose expression had subtly changed. "Damian Hawthorne, my mother and I are the same kind of person. On the day we got married, I told you, if your heart changed, I would disappear too, so you'd never find me." These words fell on Damian Hawthorne's ears, making his heart pound with increasing panic. He didn't want to hear anymore. He quickly pulled her into his arms, his tone firm. "That won't happen, Alara. I won't betray you, and I won't allow you to leave like your mother did." Hearing him once again make a solemn promise, Alara's tone was calm. "And if that day truly comes, there will never be such a day. Even if you really disappeared to the ends of the earth, even if I had to risk my life, I would find you." Each word, like a prophecy, hinted at a foreseeable future. Alara closed her eyes, her voice extremely soft, extremely light. "I'll be waiting for that day." Damian didn't quite hear her and asked, his voice trembling, "What?" Alara shook her head, broke free from his embrace, and turned into the bedroom. "Nothing." Early the next morning, a knock on the door startled Alara and Damian awake. Opening the door, Daisy Young stood outside with a suitcase, her watery eyes instantly turning coquettish. "Damian, there was a mouse in my house yesterday. I was too scared to stay. Can I stay at your place for a few days?" Without a thought, Damian refused outright. "No, Alara doesn't like strangers in the house. Go to a hotel." Daisy Young's face immediately fell, tears welling in her eyes. "You don't care about me? If you don't let me stay, I'll tell my brother you promised him you'd take good care of me. I'm just a young girl alone in a hotel. Aren't you afraid something will happen?" Hearing this, Damian rubbed his temples. "Daisy Young, don't be unreasonable." Alara sat not far away, quietly watching the two who were currently pretending to be like brother and sister. They had already done everything intimate, yet here they were, still putting on this act in front of her. Perhaps seeing that Damian was unyielding, Daisy Young immediately looked at Alara pitifully. "Alara, please just let me stay for a few days. I won't cause you any trouble." Alara looked up at her. "Fine. Be my guest." Hearing this, Daisy Young immediately cheered and dragged her suitcase inside. She didn't stand on ceremony, walking straight to the dining table and sitting down, her eyes sparkling as she looked at the sandwiches on the table. "Damian, did you make all these?" "You're so amazing." Damian slapped away her eager hand and moved the plate in front of Alara. "If you want to eat, have the maid make something. What I make is only for Alara." Daisy Young's mouth drooped, and she went into the kitchen, looking aggrieved. Alara glanced at the breakfast on the table but didn't pick up her cutlery. Damian immediately noticed. "Alara, why aren't you eating breakfast? Is it not to your taste?" She shook her head gently, offering a random excuse. "No, I just feel like having those shrimp dumplings from the East End." Damian immediately grabbed his car keys and went to the hallway to change his shoes. "I'll go buy them right away." Daisy Young, who had just come out, heard this, quickly put down her plate and skipped after him. "The food here isn't to my taste either. I want to eat out too." Watching the two figures leave one after the other, Alara showed a bitter smile. Half an hour later, Damian still hadn't returned. Alara had a premonition and took out her phone, opening the dashcam footage. As the image loaded, a woman's seductive moan echoed in the quiet room. "Damian, light? Lighter." In the cramped car, the two who had been at odds moments before were now naked and entwined. Damian thrust wildly, his eyes bloodshot, his fingers digging into Daisy Young's pliant waist. "How can you be satisfied if I'm not rough, huh? It's bad enough you shamelessly seduced your brother's friend, and now you dare to brazenly move into my house. You just want to cling to me, don't you? Let me tell you I don't love you at all. You're just a tool for my release. Alara is my bottom line. If you dare to bring our affair to her attention, you'll face the consequences." Chapter 3. As soon as Damian Hawthorne finished speaking, Daisy Young's sobbing could be heard in the video. "Yes, it's my own wishful thinking. I knew you were married and only had eyes for Alara, but I couldn't give up and insisted on clinging to you. Letting you torment me like this every day, do you think I want this? If I didn't like you so much, why would I debase myself like this?" Seeing her tear-streaked, pitiful face, Damian Hawthorne's thrusting movements suddenly froze. Though his tone was still harsh, his actions softened. "Can't even take a single word. So delicate. Where did that seductive spirit from before go? Weren't you the one who said you only wanted my body, not my heart?" Daisy Young didn't speak, crying even harder instead. Damian Hawthorne was helpless. Finally, he leaned down and kissed away the tear stains on her face. "All right, be a good girl. What gift do you want? I'll buy it for you." Daisy Young whimpered pitifully. I want the necklace you bought for Alara and the breakfast you just bought for her." Damian Hawthorne's brow furrowed. "Choose something else. Why not? This is what I want." Seeing her aggrieved face and tears starting to fall again, Damian Hawthorne had no choice but to concede. "Fine, it's yours. Anything you want, it's yours. Just stop crying, okay? Sweetheart, let me kiss you." Although she had long known Damian Hawthorne had betrayed her, witnessing this scene with her own eyes still caused Alara heart-wrenching pain. Her heart constricted suddenly, the pain making her arch her body, sweat drenching her. She bit her lip hard, but couldn't stop the choked sobs in her throat. "Damian Hawthorne, oh, Damian Hawthorne. At 15, it was you who stammered your confession to me, saying I was the only girl who made your heart flutter. At 22, it was you again, kneeling before me with a ring, saying you would give all your love to me alone for a lifetime. So, your lifetime was only a few years." Sharp nails pierced her skin, drawing blood. But her knuckles continued to clench, deepening the wounds, as if only this could somehow suppress the soul-corroding pain in her heart. She sat motionlessly at the dining table, stunned. Tears fell like rain. After an unknown amount of time, the phone screen returned to normal. Soon after, Damian Hawthorne, now fully dressed, pushed open the door. "Alara, I'm back." His gentle voice died abruptly when he saw her tear-streaked face. His heart leaped, and he immediately rushed to her. "Alara, why are you crying?" Alara struggled to control her emotions, pulled out a tissue, her voice hoarse. "It's nothing. I just watched a very touching TV show and cried." Damian Hawthorne quickly took the tissue and gently wiped away her tears, his eyes full of tender love. "What TV show? It made you cry like this. Do you want to watch it?" Damian Hawthorne froze for a moment, then indulgently ruffled her hair. "Okay, let me see. I'll have someone download this show later. How dare it make my sweetheart cry." With that, he reached for her phone. But just as he was about to tap it open, Alara suddenly spoke. "Where are the shrimp dumplings you bought?" Damian Hawthorne's movement froze for an instant. Then he immediately hugged her tightly, apologizing profusely. "I'm sorry, Alara. They were already sold out and closed when I got there. I'll go buy them for you tomorrow, okay?" As soon as he finished speaking, Daisy Young walked in carrying a bag, holding it up triumphantly. "I got the last portion of these shrimp dumplings, Alara. Do you want them?" Alara didn't speak, her gaze fixed on Daisy's neck. The sterling silver necklace Daisy Young was wearing looked very similar to the one her mother had left her. It seemed Damian Hawthorne had picked out a matching one overnight, intending to cheer her up. But Daisy Young had merely used a little trick, acted a bit coquettish, and he had given it to her. Noticing her gaze, Daisy Young walked right up to her, holding up the necklace for her to admire, her voice lilting with a smile. "Isn't this necklace beautiful? I just bought it too. Alara, do you think it suits me?" Alara stared intently for a long time before smiling, a smile that brought tears to her eyes. "It suits you." With that, she didn't look at their expressions and turned to go upstairs. In the evening, Alara had a simple meal and returned to her room. As soon as she sat down, she felt a cramping pain in her lower abdomen, as if it were filled with lead. She had no strength, collapsed onto the sofa, and cold sweat slowly seeped through her clothes, soon drenching her sweater. Damian Hawthorne, who had followed her up, saw her pained state and knew it was her period. He quickly went downstairs to make her a warm, sweet drink. After feeding it to her sip by sip, he gave her medicine and rubbed his hands together to warm them before gently placing them on her stomach. He held her, wishing he could bear the pain for her, the cherishing love in his eyes overflowing. "Sweetheart, let's not have children, okay? I can't stand seeing you in so much pain during your period. If you were to give birth, I truly can't imagine." Alara lifted her pale, paper-white face, looked at him quietly, her voice extremely weak. "If we don't have children, what will your parents think?" "I don't care what they think. Nothing is more important than you. If they insist on forcing me, then I'd rather leave the Hawthorne family and give up all inheritance rights." He declared this while tenderly kissing her neck. "Alara, I've told you, having you in this lifetime isn't enough for me to spoil. You are my child. I'll spoil you for a lifetime." Chapter 4, every word was heartfelt and sincere. Alara almost believed him, but thinking of the videos she had seen that morning, she only felt an ironic bitterness. Clearly, his love for her wasn't fake, so why could he do something so hurtful to her? Tears streamed down her face. She buried half her face in the pillow, her consciousness blurring, and unknowingly drifted off to sleep. When she woke up again, it was already midnight. Alara felt the space beside her in bed. It was empty. She paused, then picked up a glass, intending to go downstairs for some water. But just as she stepped out of the bedroom, she heard creaking sounds coming from the next room. The study door was ajar. She tiptoed over and saw two figures entwined on the desk. Daisy Young's skin was as white as snow under the light. Her face was flushed, her breathing shallow, her fingers constantly scratching at the tabletop. "Damian, isn't Alara? Isn't she having period pains? You're not with her, yet you're here teasing me again." "Shut up," Damian Hawthorne deliberately lowered his voice, but his movements beneath her didn't stop. This unexpected scene, like a heavy weight slamming into her chest, made every breath a tearing pain. Could he not control himself, not even for a moment, always needing to be with Daisy Young? She looked away, no longer in the mood for water, and stumbled back to her room. Half an hour later, the bedroom door was pushed open. Damian Hawthorne, fresh from a shower, lay down beside her and pulled her into his arms again. "Alara, sweetheart, your husband's here. It doesn't hurt anymore." Alara didn't answer him. She closed her eyes, pretending to be asleep, but tears streamed down her cheeks, wetting her temples. The man behind her, thinking she was asleep, was still gently rubbing her lower abdomen. She felt the burning warmth from his fingertips, her strength seeming to drain away, leaving only endless pain. Over and over, she counted down in her mind. Only 13 days left. Hang in there, Alara. Just 13 more days, and you'll have nothing more to do with this man. During Alara's period, Damian Hawthorne cleared his schedule and stayed home with her. Once she slowly recovered, he reluctantly let her go and went to the office to deal with the work that had piled up. After he left, Alara also took her documents and went to the police station to cancel her civil registration. The staff member was somewhat surprised. "Miss, this service is only for deceased individuals." Alara nodded. "I will be leaving this world completely in 10 days. Could you please help me process it in advance?" The staff member, assuming she had terminal cancer, showed a compassionate expression and eventually processed it for her. Holding the stamped document, Alara breathed a sigh of relief, a smile of liberation on her face. Soon, there would be no such person as Alara Silverwood in this world. And Damian Hawthorne would never find Alara Silverwood again. She leisurely walked home along that road until she passed her old high school. Seeing the already yellowed high walls, she stiffened for a moment, then walked in. As soon as she entered, countless youthful memories flooded back. The track where he pulled her to finish the 800-meter run, the library where he secretly kissed her while she slept, the classroom window where he had brought her snacks. With every place she passed, Alara could recall many memories related to Damian Hawthorne. Finally, she stopped beside a large tree in the garden. Seeing this pine tree, which was originally only shoulder-high, grow into a towering, shady presence, Alara's eyes gradually moistened. On her 16th birthday, to prepare a surprise for her, Damian Hawthorne had pulled the main power switch for the school building and then secretly snuck her out. He brought her under this tree, gave her a birthday gift, her favorite roses, sang her happy birthday, and finally, with great solemnity, buried a letter under this tree. She had wanted to read the letter then, but he had smiled and nuzzled her nose with his. "Alara, this is a secret. When we're both 80 and our hair is all white, I'll bring you back here and we'll read this letter together, okay?" At that time, no one would have thought. They would never grow old together in this lifetime. Alara crouched down and slowly dug away the soil with a stone. After digging for more than 10 minutes, she finally unearthed a sealed glass bottle. The writing on the paper had faded, but it was still recognizably Damian Hawthorne's handwriting. To the 80-year-old Damian Hawthorne, hello, I am the 17-year-old Damian Hawthorne. Right now, you must be reading this letter with Alara, and perhaps your children and grandchildren are beside you. I am so glad that from 17 to 80, you loved her for so many years and stayed true to your original heart, protecting her for so many years. This is my lifelong wish, and I'm happy you achieved it. They say true feelings can change in an instant, but Damian Hawthorne loves Alara Silverwood, forever unchanging. Please tell Alara, this life is not the end. Next life and the life after that, and the life after the life after that, I still want to be with Alara. Damian Hawthorne and Alara Silverwood, we will love each other for a long, long time. A whole page, densely packed with words. Alara read it line by line, looking at this overflowing affection, feeling her eyes gradually moisten, her heart aching terribly. Suddenly, the phone in her pocket rang. It was Daisy Young. She didn't want to answer, pressed reject, but the other party was persistent, calling incessantly. She had already anticipated something, so she answered the call with trembling hands. Sure enough, the sound of heavy thrusting soon came from the speaker. Damian, didn't you say you don't love me? Why are you so eager to press me down under you again?" Damian Hawthorne didn't answer her, only suppressed, heavy breathing. Daisy Young, unwilling to give up, pestered him for an answer. "You just can't resist my body, can you? I understand your desires better than Alara, right? You can't leave me, right? You're obsessed with me, you can't stand a day without sleeping with me, right?" Sentence after sentence, pushing Damian Hawthorne until he had no way out, he finally gave her an answer. "Yes, with you, I just can't get enough." Chapter 5. The moment his words fell, the call was also cut off. Staring at the darkened screen, Alara's hand, clutching the letter, trembled slightly. Suddenly, through tear-blurred eyes, she seemed to see the 17-year-old Damian Hawthorne. The young man, dressed in a blue and white school uniform, stood radiantly under an oak tree, his eyes red with heartache as he looked at her, repeating something over and over. Tears blurred her vision. She couldn't see clearly. Only by reading his lips, confirming it again and again, did she finally understand the words he wanted to tell her. "Alara, don't forgive. Don't forgive him." At that moment, all her emotions seemed to crumble instantly. The pain from her heart was sharp, making her gasp for breath, her body doubling over in agony. Finally, unable to hold back any longer, she clutched the letter and squatted on the ground, sobbing. "Fine, Damian Hawthorne. I won't forgive you. I will never forgive you." For several consecutive days, Damian Hawthorne did not return, until their 4th wedding anniversary. Alara woke up to see the gown and jewelry Damian Hawthorne had prepared for her. His secretary, waiting nearby, bowed slightly to her, her tone full of respect. "Madam, Mr. Hawthorne has been preparing the celebratory banquet these past few days. Please be sure to attend tonight." Alara listened quietly, without a word. His disappearance for these 3 days, was it to prepare an anniversary surprise? Or was he lingering in someone else's bed? She didn't know, and didn't want to ask. When night fell, Alara changed into what he had prepared and followed the secretary to the banquet hall. Damian Hawthorne was waiting at the entrance early. As soon as he saw her, he took off his coat and draped it over her shoulders. He embraced her and walked quickly towards the main hall, not even having time to greet the guests who were exchanging pleasantries, causing his friends to click their tongues. The moment his wife arrives, he has eyes for no one else. Look at this love-struck fool. Every year the anniversary is as grand as a wedding. D-man, you spoil your wife so much, you make us bros look bad. Tell me about it. My wife nags me every day to learn from you, but I'm just a straight guy. I don't have D-man's romantic genes. Hearing his friends teasing, Damian Hawthorne's lips curved slightly. You can't learn it. There won't be another person in the world who loves Alara as much as I do. Faced with envious gazes from all directions, Alara showed no reaction. Throughout the evening, Alara, using the excuse of feeling cold, sat on the sofa. She watched Damian Hawthorne attentively adjusting the hem of her skirt, watched him carrying a wine glass, moving through the crowd, accepting everyone's congratulations, watched him return to her side from time to time, offering her delicious desserts. Everything was no different from last year. But only Alara knew that everything was different. At 8 o'clock sharp, the banquet finally reached its climax. A 5-meter-high castle cake was wheeled out. Damian Hawthorne took Alara's hand and walked into the spotlight, presenting his gift to her under the watchful eyes of thousands. It was a document. Facing the guests' curious gazes, Damian Hawthorne announced loudly, "This year's 4th wedding anniversary gift is 70% of my shares in the Hawthorne Group, all of which I will transfer to Alara. From today onwards, Alara is the true head of the Hawthorne Group. In the future, I will merely be her subordinate, working for her." As soon as these words were spoken, the entire hall was in an uproar. No one had expected Damian Hawthorne to go to such lengths for Alara, and they exclaimed endlessly, "Oh my God, Mr. Hawthorne isn't leaving himself any leeway. This is too much love. Mrs. Hawthorne must have saved a deity in her past life to marry such a good husband in this one." Everyone was envious of Alara, but she remained expressionless, picking up a pen and signing the contract without fuss. Only Damian Hawthorne noticed something was wrong with her. Previously, whenever he gave her a gift, her face would be sweet and happy. She rarely showed such a cold expression. A sliver of panic flashed through his heart. Just as he was about to ask her why she was unhappy, whether this gift wasn't to her liking, Alara spoke first. "It's a bit stuffy. I'm going out for some air." Chapter 6. Outside the venue, there was a large fountain pool, the surrounding plum blossoms in full, vibrant bloom. Looking at the fiery branches, Alara's heavy heart eased considerably. Tired from walking, she was about to sit down and rest when she looked up and saw Daisy Young walking towards her. Perhaps the surprise Damian Hawthorne had prepared for Alara this time had completely broken Daisy's composure. She dropped all pretense. "Alara Silverwood, you heard that call I made to you last time, didn't you? Since you heard it, why didn't you confront him or leave? Why are you still by Damian's side? Yes, I admit the surprise Damian prepared for you today was grand, but that's just guilt at play. If he truly loved you desperately, he wouldn't even glance at me. Let me tell you, I've slept with him thousands of times. Do you know what that number means? It means when you weren't aware, he was entangled with me every moment. You just met him a few years earlier. What's there to be proud of? One day, I'll prove to you that Damian's body and heart will both belong to me." Alara listened quietly, her face expressionless, and turned to leave. But Daisy Young completely lost it, grabbing her hand. "Alara Silverwood, why don't we make a bet? See who Damian cares about more? Do you dare?" With that, Daisy Young, as if possessed, pulled her and jumped into the pool. The water temperature in the deep winter was near freezing. Alara's dress was elaborate and heavy. Once soaked, it felt like lead, dragging her down. She struggled desperately but couldn't fight the downward pull, her body trembling uncontrollably. Just as her strength was about to give out, Damian Hawthorne, who had rushed over, noticed the commotion. Seeing the two floundering in the pool, his heart leaped, and he dove into the water. Daisy Young was also frozen and drained of strength. She looked at the man swimming towards her and cried out, "Damian!" But Damian Hawthorne completely ignored her, frantically calling Alara's name, swimming desperately towards her, who was further away. "Alara," he pulled her out, holding the already hypothermic woman tightly in his arms. "Elara, wake up, sweetheart, don't scare me." He truly looked terrified, his eyes red, holding her so tightly his voice choked with sobs. Only when staff, alerted to the situation, brought dry towels did Damian Hawthorne, trembling, begin to wipe the water from her while ordering someone to call an ambulance immediately. Elara's whole body was red and purple from the cold, her consciousness already fading. Before she lost consciousness, the last thing she saw was Daisy Young being pulled out by security guards. Daisy's face was a mixture of pale and ashen, tears in her eyes. She looked somewhat comical. Waking up, Elara found herself in the hospital. A nurse, seeing her awake, began chattering while taking her temperature. "Mrs. Hawthorne, you're finally awake if you'd slept a few more hours." Mr. Hawthorne was about to call in every doctor in the city overnight. "Yes, we all said you were just overtired, but Mr. Hawthorne wouldn't believe us. He insisted we give you a full checkup." Elara paid no mind to the nurse's words. She propped up her somewhat weak body, trying to sit up slowly. Damian Hawthorne, who had just returned, was overjoyed to see her awake. He hugged her tightly, burying his head in her neck, his voice filled with lingering fear. "Elara, you're finally awake. Do you know, you scared me to death. If you hadn't woken up, my life would have been over too." Elara's body stiffened for a moment. She didn't speak, just let him hold her, until Damian Hawthorne's phone rang. Only then did he reluctantly release her, glanced at his phone, his expression changing slightly. After hesitating for a few seconds, he placed a kiss on Elara's forehead. "Elara, you rest well. I need to go handle some work." After she hummed in acknowledgement, Damian Hawthorne quickly left. Elara silently got out of bed and quietly followed him. She watched as Damian Hawthorne went to the 6th floor and entered a hospital room near the stairwell. Through the slightly parted curtains, Elara saw Daisy Young. She was throwing a tantrum, cups and fruit scattered on the floor. As soon as Damian Hawthorne entered, he pulled her into his arms, a hint of impatience in his voice. "What are you fussing about now? I've told you countless times I don't love you. My heart only has room for Elara. She was in danger, of course I had to save her. You don't love me, yet you slept with me so many times you don't love me. Yet you rushed over when you got my call, Damian Hawthorne. I hate you don't love me, fine, then I don't love you anymore either. I'll find someone else." Hearing this, Damian Hawthorne's face immediately changed. He grabbed her, his expression dark. "You dare?" Daisy Young didn't speak, just wiped her tears, crying even harder. Seeing her tear-blurred face, Damian Hawthorne sighed, finally conceding as he held her. "All right, stop crying. This time it was my fault. Whatever you want, I'll agree to it, okay?" Chapter 7, Daisy Young finally stopped sobbing. "Then I want you to promise me 3 things. Damian Hawthorne's voice was cold, yet held an undeniable hint of indulgence. "All right, tell me. First, you're not allowed to see Elara for the next few days. You have to stay with me." "Fine." "Second, I have a ball in a few days. You have to attend with me as my boyfriend." "Fine." "Third, I want you to propose to me, put a diamond ring on my finger yourself, and say you'll love me forever." Hearing this, Damian Hawthorne fell silent. Daisy Young started crying again. "I'm not asking you to be serious. I know you won't leave Elara. I just want the man I love most to propose to me once, even if it's fake." "Is that too much to ask?" Her tears completely broke down his last line of defense. After a long pause, Elara heard his deep, indulgent voice. "All right, anything you say. Come, let me kiss you." Soon, the two in the hospital room were kissing again, their lips and tongues entwined. She could already predict what would happen next. Trembling, she turned and left without a word. For the next few days, Damian Hawthorne indeed didn't appear. He only occasionally sent a message, saying he was on a business trip. Elara didn't reply a single word, and he showed no reaction. In the past, he would have immediately sensed something was wrong and rushed to find her. But now, he was only concerned with keeping Daisy Young company. Occasionally, when nurses took her for checkups, they would chat with doctors about hospital gossip. "I heard a mysterious tycoon booked the entire 6th floor for a girl. No one's allowed up without notification. Someone's been sending all sorts of luxury goods and jewelry up there these past few days. I wonder who it is, so lucky." Elara listened quietly, opened her phone, and looked at the various photos Daisy Young had sent her these past few days. A whole row of Hermes bags, complete sets of jewelry, and bluish-purple love bites on her skin. The next second, a message from Damian Hawthorne arrived. Elora, you're being discharged this afternoon. Shall I have my secretary pick you up? I still have some things to deal with abroad. I can only come back the day after tomorrow. Abroad. Had the 6th floor of City General Hospital been rezoned as a foreign country? Looking at it, Elora laughed silently until tears streamed down, then she looked at the calendar on the table. December 17th. For her complete liberation. Only 3 days left. On the third to last day, Elora went to the psychiatric hospital and visited Raymond Silverwood. She hadn't seen him in 3 years. He had aged a lot more, his hair completely white, his eyes dull and cloudy. He no longer even recognized her, his own daughter. Through the window, she looked at this man, the main culprit who had caused her to lose her mother since childhood, and couldn't help but ask him, "Do you regret it?" Raymond Silverwood couldn't understand what she was asking at all, shook his head, and then nodded. Elora knew she wouldn't get an answer. She gave him one last look and left. As soon as she stepped out, she saw Damian Hawthorne waiting outside. Upon seeing her, he quickly jogged over, draping his coat over her and taking her hand to warm it in his pocket. "Sweetheart, what made you think of coming here today? Why didn't you call me? It's so cold, what if you caught a chill?" Elora looked at him steadily, her expression blank. "I dreamed of my mother yesterday. I came to see for her what becomes of those who betray." Hearing this, a flicker of alarm flashed in Damian Hawthorne's eyes, his throat bobbing a few times. But he quickly controlled his emotions and smiled indulgently. "Since you've seen him, let's go home. I bought you lots of gifts on my trip abroad. See if you like them." The two didn't linger and got into the car. After returning home, they happened to see Daisy Young coming downstairs with a suitcase. Seeing Elora, she smiled sweetly and then handed over a gift box. "Elora, I'm moving out. Staying at your home, these past few days, has really been an inconvenience. This is a gift I carefully selected for you during your hospital stay. You'll definitely like it." She emphasized the last sentence heavily, her meaning clear. Before Elora could speak, Damian Hawthorne reached out and took Daisy Young's suitcase, looking at Elora. "Elora, I'll see her off. Otherwise, it'll be hard for me to explain to her brother. You be good at home, okay? I'll be back to keep you company after I'm done." Elora said nothing, just silently watched their backs as they left. Only when the car was completely out of sight did she reach out and slowly open the gift from Daisy Young. As soon as she loosened the lid a little, a heavy, cloying floral scent wafted out. Her hand paused for a few seconds before she completely removed the lid. Used condoms, densely packed, filled the box. 1, 2, 3, 36. During her days in the hospital, Damian Hawthorne and Daisy Young had slept together 36 times. Elora thought she should be in pain. But in the end, she just laughed and laughed until tears streamed down her face. She looked at the falling snow outside the window, put the box away, and placed it in Damian Hawthorne's study, a place where he would see it as soon as he returned. Chapter 8. The second to last day, Damian Hawthorne still hadn't returned. But Elora knew he was attending a ball today, acting as Daisy Young's temporary boyfriend. She didn't ask about his whereabouts. Instead, she hired a cleaning service and had the house tidied up. More accurately, she cleared out everything related to her. From small items like towels, toothbrushes, and cups, to larger things like clothes, cosmetics, and jewelry. Worthless items were thrown away, and those with some value were donated to charity. Looking at the slowly emptying villa, her heart also calmed down. She would no longer ache for someone unworthy, nor would she have any lingering attachments. At night, the snow began to fall again. Elora sat by the fireplace and edited 2 videos. The first was a compilation of all the romantic videos she and Damian Hawthorne had filmed over the years. The second was a compilation of all the intimate videos Daisy Young had sent her recently, featuring her and Damian Hawthorne. After she finished editing, a new day dawned. She sent these 2 videos to the manager of the Central Plaza's display screen, along with a sum of money. "Hello, please help me play these 2 videos, one after the other, on all city screens tomorrow." On the very last day, as soon as Elora opened her eyes, she saw Damian Hawthorne. He was kissing her cheek, his voice full of joy. "Elora, happy birthday." Only then did Elora remember that today was her 26th birthday. What a coincidence. It was also the day she would completely disappear from his world. Looking at the newly decorated living room and the huge birthday cake, Elora smiled, wanting to ask him if he wasn't tired of putting on such an act every day. Fresh from loving Daisy Young, he rushed home to love her. She sat up. "You've been so busy with work lately. Do you have time to celebrate my birthday with me?" Damian Hawthorne reached out and ruffled her hair, his eyes crinkling with a smile. "Elara, what are you saying? You know very well that no one in the world compares to you. It's your birthday. Even if the sky were falling today, I would be with you." "Is that so?" Elara smiled but said nothing. All day, Damian Hawthorne was busy in the kitchen. From fruits to drinks, from various dishes to desserts, he handled everything himself. Suddenly, Damian Hawthorne's phone, which was on the table, rang. Elara immediately saw a message from Daisy Young. It was a mirror selfie of her in a maid outfit, along with a suggestive line. "It's my safe period, you don't need to wear one." Elara glanced at it and put the phone back in its original place. At 6:30 p.m., 20 dishes were prepared and served. Damian Hawthorne beckoned to her. "Sweetheart, come over. Your husband is here to celebrate your birthday." Elara got up and walked over. After sitting down, she handed him his phone. "Your phone was ringing just now." Damian Hawthorne smiled and said not to worry about it, but as soon as the screen lit up and he saw the content, his gaze darkened and his breathing quickened. Elara watched him quietly. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. After 3 seconds of silence, he put away his phone and showed her an apologetic expression. "Elara, something came up at the company. I need to go check on it. Can you eat by yourself first, okay? I'll be back in 2 hours." 2 hours, will that be enough for you to enjoy yourself?" Damian Hawthorne didn't quite hear her and turned back to ask, "What was that?" Elara smiled. "Nothing, go ahead." Damian Hawthorne, go find her. "You don't need to know that today is the last day we'll spend together." The 15-year-old Damian Hawthorne had Elara Silverwood, and the 27-year-old Damian Hawthorne would lose Elara Silverwood forever. After watching his car drive away, Elara slowly went out. A thick layer of snow covered the ground, making each step difficult. She walked step by step to the large screen in the city center, glanced at her wristwatch, and finally sent a message to the manager. "It's time. You can play it now." At 7 p.m. sharp, the large screen in the city center suddenly began to play a video. The first image that appeared caused people in the plaza to stop in their tracks. Elara watched from afar, extending her hand. Snowflakes, crystal clear and white, landed in her palm. At the same time, that cold, mechanical voice sounded in the deserted street. "The space-time passage has opened. Countdown 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. After the countdown ended, a gust of wind swept through, stirring up countless snowflakes, engulfing the entire street. 3 minutes later, the wind and blizzard stopped. And where Elara had been standing, there was no one. Chapter 9, the wind came and went. The snow continued to fall. When Elara Silverwood opened her eyes again, she found herself away from the street. She was in front of an unfamiliar villa, the house number reading 12,138. Seeing this familiar string of digits, Elara stared blankly for a moment. The next second, a voice, somewhat familiar yet somewhat strange, came from behind her. "You are?" Elara turned at the sound and saw a face she had dreamed of countless times. Her mother, Miranda Ashworth, whom she hadn't seen in 20 years, stood before her, her smiling face untouched by the passage of time. Upon seeing her, Miranda also froze, her still bright eyes slowly misting over. "Elara!" Hearing her mother call her name, Elara could no longer hold back and rushed into her embrace. Miranda opened her arms and held her tightly. Tears slowly traced down her face, dripping onto her daughter's brow, mingling with warm tears and falling together onto the snow-covered ground. Time ticked by, minute by minute. The snowflakes grew larger. Miranda finally came to her senses. She raised her hand to wipe the tears from her daughter's face and took Elara's hand. They returned to the home that once belonged only to her, but now belonged to mother and daughter. The warmth from the heaters in the room slowly dispelled the chill from their bodies. Miranda put down the cake she was holding, wrapped her daughter in a blanket, and went into the kitchen. Elara followed her in, watching her mother take out a rolling pin and start making longevity noodles. The sourness she had just suppressed welled up again. "Mom, I want 2 fried eggs." Hearing these words again, Miranda's eyes also reddened, and she felt a momentary daze. She still couldn't believe her daughter was truly back by her side, or if this was just a dream. Turning to see the young woman beside her helping wash vegetables, she finally felt a sense of reality. Her hands quickened their pace. 10 minutes later, 2 bowls of steaming hot noodle soup were served on the dining table. Alara unwrapped the cake, lit the candles, and, accompanied by her mother's "Happy Birthday" song, made a wish. "I wish Mom good health and a long life, and that we will never be separated again." She silently repeated this sentence 3 times in her heart. Opening her eyes again, she saw those eyes full of love and guilt. She quickly cut a piece of cake and handed it over, smiling sweetly. "Mom, I'm 26 now and we've finally met again. This is wonderful." "Wonderful indeed," Miranda murmured in repetition, handing the chopsticks to her daughter, her voice still tinged with a sob. "Hurry and eat your noodles. See if Mom's cooking skills have deteriorated." Just like when she was little, Alara first finished an egg before picking up the noodles. The soft, chewy noodles entered her mouth, carrying the aroma of the savory broth, instantly awakening taste buds that had been dormant for years. One bite followed another. Soon, the large bowl of longevity noodles, including the soup, was eaten clean. After finishing the last remaining egg, Alara took the napkin her mother handed her, her eyes sparkling with happiness. "It tastes just like when I was little." "Mom, I've been craving this for so long." Seeing her daughter acting coquettishly, Miranda wiped her tears and finally smiled. "If you like it, Mom will make it for you every day from now on." "Okay, we'll have it again tomorrow. Let's eat cake first today. Is this cream sweet?" "Sweet, not too rich. It's your favorite chocolate flavor." "Try it." Outside the window, the wind and snow gradually receded, and the lights in the villa slowly dimmed. Alara snuggled in her mother's embrace. Neither could sleep, chatting idly about this and that. "Mom, tell me, what have you been doing all these years? How many times a day did you think of me? You even bought me a cake. Does that mean you prepared a gift for me too?" Chapter 10. In the early hours of the morning, the snow, which had lasted for 2 days and 2 nights, finally stopped. Damian Hawthorne finally broke free from the nightmare that had made his heart pound. He opened his eyes, wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, and looked at the dim, uncertain sky outside, gasping for breath. The second hand on the wall clock ticked steadily. Once he had calmed down and opened his phone, he realized it was already 5 o'clock. Daisy Young, beside him, was awakened by the light. She opened her eyes blearily and snuggled closer. The moment their 2 naked bodies touched, Damian Hawthorne's body reacted instantly. Daisy Young also noticed, her soft little hands provocatively stroking him, her voice sweet and cloying. "Awake so early, Damian. Could it be?" Damian Hawthorne, however, did not do as she wished. He pulled her hands away, rolled out of bed, and went into the bathroom. Listening to the pitter-patter of water, Daisy Young fully woke up and impatiently turned on the light. The room was a mess, clothes scattered everywhere, and the air still held the lingering scent of intimacy. Seeing this scene, she recalled last night's passionate moments, a triumphant look appearing on her face. She picked up Damian Hawthorne's phone, which he had tossed on the bed, entered Alara's birthday, and easily unlocked it. The screen jumped to the messaging interface. Seeing that the message he had sent at 11 o'clock last night had not been answered, a cunning smile played on Daisy Young's lips. She knew yesterday was Alara's birthday, which was why she had used this method to lure Damian Hawthorne over. It was supposed to be 2 hours, but due to her thorough preparations, it extended to 11 o'clock. After 11, Damian Hawthorne refused to stay any longer. She then bet him that Alara was definitely asleep, and it would be too late to celebrate her birthday if he went back. He sent a message, and by midnight, there was still no reply, so he ended up staying at her place. In reality, Alara wasn't asleep at all. She probably hadn't slept much all night. Just like them after all, every half hour, Daisy would send her real-time updates of their activities, inviting her to enjoy them together. On the first day of her 26th year, watching videos of her husband's trysts with another woman, any normal person wouldn't be able to sleep. The thought of Alara at home, probably with swollen eyes from crying, yet having to pretend she knew nothing, filled Daisy Young with utter delight. Hearing the sound from the bathroom slowly stop, she quickly got up, casually picked a slip dress from the closet, changed into it, and waited by the door. When Damian Hawthorne came out, she immediately threw herself into his arms, cooing and acting coquettish. "Damian, sleep a little longer. Have breakfast with me later, okay?" Damian Hawthorne, his face cold, pushed her away, took a clean set of clothes from the closet, changed, and walked out the door. Seeing him turn and leave without a word, Daisy Young frowned. Everything was fine. Why was he angry again? After a night of heavy snow, the roads were icy, and the driver dared not go too fast. Damian Hawthorne sat in the back seat, constantly rubbing his temples, trying to banish those dark images from his mind. But the more he tried to forget, the more vividly he remembered. He had no choice but to pick up his phone to distract himself. After a few hours of not looking, his messaging app suddenly had nearly 100 new messages. They were all teasing and congratulatory messages from friends and family, praising him for being romantic and preparing such a big surprise for his wife. Surprise? What surprise? Damian Hawthorne didn't know. Looking at the same link they had all sent, he clicked on it suspiciously. It was a trending topic. So sweet, the Hawthornes' lavish birthday PDA. Below it was a video that had been playing on a loop all night on the large screen in the city center. And the stars of the video were, unmistakably, Damian Hawthorne and Alara Silverwood, a record of their 11-year romance. Only Alara had these videos and photos. Had she edited and released them as a surprise? Remembering last night's recklessness and the forgotten birthday, Damian Hawthorne's heart was consumed by guilt. He covered his face, full of remorse, and said in a low voice, "To the city center." Chapter 11. Though it was just dawn, a time when there should have been few people, the city center plaza was crowded. They were all shipper fans of Damian Hawthorne and Alara Silverwood, who had heard the news last night and come to see. When the man himself appeared, everyone instantly screamed. "D-Man, where's Alara? Isn't she coming to see too? Please tell Alara happy 26th birthday from us. We'll be with D-Man, accompanying her until old age. Happy 4th wedding anniversary to you both." Hearing the tide of blessings, Damian Hawthorne quickly waved to everyone. He looked up at the scrolling images on the screen, and those memories hidden deep in his mind slowly resurfaced. Every scene was a testament to the past. The drenching rain they walked through together, the high mountains they climbed together, the moments they raised their glasses in celebration. Watching, Damian Hawthorne found himself smiling along with his past self in the video. In that moment, he rediscovered the heart-pounding, blushing feeling he had when he first got together with Alara. He eagerly dialed her number, wanting to share his current feelings with her. But after 4 or 5 calls, it went straight to voicemail. Her phone was off. Damian Hawthorne suddenly felt a surge of panic. The time ticked from 6:59 a.m. to 7 o'clock a.m. sharp. The video in the city center plaza was just reaching its end. Just as everyone thought it was about to replay, the screen suddenly switched. From the speakers spread throughout the plaza, a woman's moans could be heard. At the same time, the screen showed a naked man and woman engaged in a very private act of procreation. This sudden explicit video sent the entire plaza, and the live online stream, into an uproar. Damian Hawthorne only needed one glance to recognize himself and Daisy Young as the people on screen. His face instantly turned deathly pale. His mind went blank, all rationality collapsing in an instant. And the crowd, which had been watching the spectacle, showed expressions of shock and disbelief after clearly seeing the faces of the man and woman on screen. Everyone turned their gaze to Damian Hawthorne. At 7:05 a.m., the hashtag Damian Hawthorne cheats topped the trending list. At 7:10 a.m., the social media app crashed. At 7:20 a.m., the video, which had been playing in the plaza for 20 minutes, was taken down, and the screen went black. At 7:30 a.m., the Hawthorne Group issued a statement, claiming that the 5-hour video was a malicious deepfake. And during that half hour, Damian Hawthorne drove frantically home. Only one thought remained in his mind: to suppress this matter before Alara woke up. Chapter 12. He sped home, pushed open the door, and the first thing he saw was the meter-high cake. After a night in the warm room, the cream had melted, dripping down the table and pooling on the floor into a white river. The dishes on the table were all cold, untouched in their original places. This deathly silent atmosphere made Damian Hawthorne's already panicked heart beat even faster. He crossed the living room, lightened his steps, and slowly walked upstairs. The bedroom was also very quiet. Looking at the smoothly made bed, Damian Hawthorne's heart almost stopped. His mind went blank for a moment, then rebooted and spun rapidly. The surging adrenaline dilated his pupils to their maximum. He rushed into the room like a madman, flinging open all the doors. Bathroom, walk-in closet, small sitting room, balcony. Everywhere he looked was empty, with hardly any belongings left. Staring at the empty room, Damian Hawthorne was left with only one thought. It was over. Completely over. Elara Ashworth slept until 11 o'clock before getting up. Her mother, Miranda, was knitting a scarf on the sofa. Seeing her awake, she immediately had someone bring out the warmed breakfast. After freshening up, Elara leisurely drank her porridge while watching the scarf gradually take shape in her mother's hands. "Mom, is this for me?" Miranda smiled. After Elara finished eating, she took her to another bedroom. "After I returned to this world, Mom bought this villa. The first thing I did was prepare a room for you." With that, she opened the wardrobe. Inside hung fashionable dresses, clothes, bags, and also hand-knitted gloves, scarves, and hats. And on the dressing table, various brands of cosmetics and skincare products were neatly arranged, all the latest models unopened. In the display cabinet were beautifully packaged boxes, 20 of them, representing 20 years of birthday gifts. This always empty bedroom had never been occupied, yet it was bright and clean, fully furnished, always waiting for its owner to return. Seeing this warm, bright room, a pang of emotion rose in Elara's nose. So, while she was anent her mother was also thinking of her. Her mother had been waiting for her to come to this world. Thankfully, she hadn't disappointed her mother's expectations. She snuggled into her mother's warm embrace, shedding tears of happiness. "Mom, will you blame me for not coming to find you all these years?" Miranda patted her back, cooing softly, her voice full of affection. "You didn't even blame Mom for leaving you behind. How could Mom blame you? No matter which world you're in, as long as you're healthy and happy, Mom is happy for you." "Me too, Mom. I just want you to be happy, to always be free to be yourself." After lunch, Miranda took Elara to the local government office to apply for an identity document. When filling in her name, Elara discussed it with her mother and decided to change her surname. Holding her new ID, looking at the words Elara Ashworth, a feeling of rebirth washed over her. Only at this moment did she truly feel that she had completely bid farewell to the past. Miranda took her to her company, processed her employment papers, and announced her identity to all the employees. Looking at the mother and daughter, who looked like two peas in a pod, the employees below buzzed with discussion. "President Ashworth's rumored daughter has finally appeared. Wow, they look so much alike. No wonder President Ashworth gave out such big bonuses this morning and said we'd have a holiday to celebrate. Turns out the successor is back. Will Junior Miss Ashworth take over from President Ashworth in the future?" Looking at the company her mother had built from scratch, and the employees who had worked with her for over a decade, Elara Ashworth felt a genuine pride for her mother. Last night, the mother and daughter had talked about future plans. Her mother asked her what she wanted to do. Before this, Elara Ashworth had never thought about this question. Her former self only wanted to get married, have children, be a good wife and pillar of the home, and live a peaceful and stable life. But after experiencing the breakdown of her marriage, she slowly realized that the fulfilling and happy life she pursued should be created by herself, not by pinning her hopes on a man. It took her 20 years to understand this, but thankfully, it wasn't too late. So she took her mother's advice and decided to return to the professional world, experience a different life, and find her passion. She was going to start a new life in this brand new world. Chapter 13, 24 hours after Elara Silverwood disappeared, the police found her phone in a landfill. Upon receiving the news, Damian Hawthorne rushed to the police station immediately. Before handing over the phone, the police asked several important questions. "Mr. Hawthorne, are you sure the last time you saw your wife was at 6:30 p.m.? Did you contact her that night? Regarding some recent online public opinion related to you, was your wife aware of it? According to the information we've gathered, your wife's mother also suddenly went missing 20 years ago, with no news to date. Do you think your wife's disappearance could be related to her mother's?" This barrage of questions pierced Damian Hawthorne's heart like sharp knives. He clutched his chest, trying to suppress the dull ache, but to no avail. His brain, unrested for a day, became sluggish, struggling to process this information, making his answers filled with uncertainty. Yes, it was 6:30 p.m. It was her birthday. I sent her a message that night, but she didn't reply. Those public opinions, I don't know if she knew. Her mother left because her father had an affair, his words caught in his throat. Damian Hawthorne looked up, a flicker of clarity suddenly appearing in his numb eyes. Some deeply buried memories began to surface. Before Alara disappeared, she had visited the psychiatric hospital. The necklace her mother left her had never reappeared after being sent for repair. She had frequently mentioned those past events concerning her parents that were once too painful for her to recall. An unprecedented, intense sense of dread welled up in Damian Hawthorne's heart. He felt the hairs on his body stand on end, a numb, tingling sensation spreading from his temples throughout his body. Looking at the phone the police handed him, he took it with trembling hands and unlocked it with his fingerprint. The screen instantly jumped to a chat interface. The moment he saw the name at the top of the screen, Damian Hawthorne's blood ran cold. Daisy Young. And the chat history was filled with explicit videos and photos. Scrolling up, there was no end in sight. He suddenly remembered the sensational 5-hour explicit video that had played on the large screen in the city center. All the perplexing questions that had tormented him and kept him awake at night found their answers at this moment. It turned out Alara hadn't suddenly disappeared after seeing that video. She had known about him and Daisy Young long ago. The reason she had remained silent was merely that she was planning her departure. And that video was her handiwork. She had used this resolute method to expose the facade of their happy marriage to the world, thereby retaliating for his infidelity. And Damian Hawthorne, immersed in his desires, had been completely oblivious. By the time he realized it, he found himself standing on the edge of a cliff, and behind him was a dark, enormous chasm of his own making. He fell into it, plummeting endlessly, with no room for resistance. The wind, as sharp as knives, flayed his skin. The vultures of desire, nurtured in his heart, devoured his flesh and blood. The scorching sun evaporated and dried him out. Finally, only an empty skeleton remained, crashing onto the hard rock below. Thud, completely shattered. Chapter 14, 3 days after the video incident, news of Alara Silverwood's disappearance spread like wildfire. Simultaneously, the female protagonist of the video was identified by netizens. A freshman at S University, the sister of Damian Hawthorne's college roommate. The two pieces of news appearing together quickly pushed the hashtag Damian Hawthorne cheats back to the top of the trending list. This time, the Hawthorne family invested a large sum of money, but couldn't suppress the trending topic, as if someone was fanning the flames behind the scenes. Overnight, the Hawthorne Group's stock nearly hit the limit down. Senior Mr. Hawthorne suffered a heart attack that night and was hospitalized. When his secretary relayed this news to Damian Hawthorne, his already crumbling psychological defenses completely collapsed. The 72-hour golden window for rescue had passed, and there was still no news of Alara. He had searched every place he could think of, even hiring countless private investigators and using connections to pull surveillance footage from all roads in Newford City. Still, no trace of Alara Silverwood was found. Her civil registration had been canceled, all her belongings in the house had been cleared out, and the last surveillance footage of her was at 6:30 p.m. on the 21st. After he drove away from home, she followed him out carrying a bag. What was in the bag? No one knew. As detectives traced her whereabouts, Damian Hawthorne, barely holding himself together, went to the hospital. As soon as he entered, his father, Marcus Hawthorne, slapped him hard across the face, making him see stars. "You disgraceful son, causing such a huge mess. The entire Hawthorne family is going to be ruined by you." He knelt on the ground with difficulty, kowtowing repeatedly to his enraged parents and his grandfather, who was still on a respirator. After the dull thuds of his head hitting the floor, a knock came from the door. Marcus Hawthorne turned around, his face dark, and saw a face he utterly detested. Vincent Preston, the current president of the Preston Group, the Hawthorne Group's biggest competitor. He arrived with 7 or 8 people. Witnessing the scene of father-son conflict, he couldn't help but applaud. "My father heard Senior Mr. Hawthorne was unwell and specifically asked me, a junior, to inquire after his health. I wonder if it's convenient." Just seeing his gloating expression, the Hawthorne family realized something was amiss, their faces changing as they began to usher him out. Faced with their unceremonious rebukes, Vincent Preston paid them no heed. He smiled and took out a document, tapping it repeatedly in his palm. "It's all right if it's not convenient. Actually, I came today for another matter. A few days ago, I received a share transfer agreement. The signatory is the largest shareholder of the Hawthorne Group, Elara Silverwood. She transferred 70% of her shares to me at the lowest price. I have already signed it. I came today to inform you all that tomorrow morning at 10, I will bring my lawyers to the Hawthorne Group headquarters to handle related matters. I hope everyone will be prepared." These words exploded like thunder in the ears of everyone in the room. Marcus Hawthorne didn't believe a word he said and was the first to object. "Impossible, the largest shareholder of the Hawthorne Group is Damian Hawthorne. He didn't sign. How could it be transferred to you?" Vincent Preston fixed his gaze on Damian Hawthorne, the smile on his face growing even more gleeful. "Whether this matter is true or false, Uncle Hawthorne, you should ask your good son. Farewell." Damian Hawthorne was already frozen in place, speechless. He was a complete mess, not knowing where he was or what he had experienced. Only the ceaseless gasping for breath remained, over and over, echoing in his mind. Chapter 15. Daisy Young's brother, Dylan, and her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Young, rushed to her side the day the incident occurred, demanding to know what had happened. She stubbornly refused to say, infuriating her family to the point where they locked her up. On the 5th day after the incident, unable to bear the overwhelming public condemnation, she dropped out of University. That night, she finally found a chance to sneak out. Arriving at the Hawthorne residence, she looked at the darkened rooms and smelled a stale, decaying odor. Searching from the living room to the 2nd floor, she finally found Damian Hawthorne in a corner of the bedroom. He lay amidst a pile of liquor bottles, dead drunk, his face scruffy and unshaven. This disheveled and dejected appearance was a stark contrast to the dapper, celebrated golden boy he once was. Daisy Young, shocked, rushed forward to hug him, her voice filled with unconcealable worry. "Damian, what's wrong?" Hearing her voice, Damian Hawthorne opened his bloodshot eyes. The instant he saw her face, his first thought was of those chat logs. The source of all the evil that had brought him to this state, that had caused Elara to leave it, was all because of the person before him in an instant. Anger erupted in Damian Hawthorne's heart like a volcano. He could no longer control himself. He shoved her away and pinned her hard against the wall. The veins on the hands gripping her arms bulged, his entire face contorted and terrifying. Words squeezed out from between his teeth, laced with gnashing hatred. "Daisy Young, I warned you countless times. Elara is my bottom line. How dare you do this behind my back? Are you looking for death?" Daisy Young felt as if she were nailed in place, her entire body unable to move. Her limbs flailed haphazardly, driven by the instinct for survival, but she couldn't escape his grip. The suffocating sensation in her throat made her face turn from red to blue, her eyeballs bulging grotesquely. She looked at the face before her, distorted by rage, and a flood of terror washed over her. Subconsciously, she whimpered fragmented pleas for mercy. "I didn't intentionally, just wanted to be with you." Damian Hawthorne couldn't hear her clearly, nor did he have the patience to listen. Watching her struggles weaken and her pupils gradually lose focus, he felt the guilt and sorrow weighing on his heart dissipate and dissolve. Due to oxygen deprivation, Daisy Young's mind slowly went blank. The image before her grew increasingly blurry, dark spots appearing, and only a faint buzzing sound remained in her ears. Just as she thought she was going to die there, her family, who had been chasing after her, finally burst in. Dylan Young rushed forward, grabbed Damian Hawthorne's collar, and dragged him back. After rescuing his sister, he punched Damian. Damian Hawthorne, already blinded by hatred, no longer cared about any brotherly bonds and began to brawl with him. Neither gave an inch, fists landing solidly. "Damian Hawthorne, you damn cheater, you ruined my sister and destroyed her reputation. What right do you have to lay a hand on her? I ruined her." "Dylan Young, get it straight, it was your shameless vixen sister who seduced me. She threw herself at me. I gave her money, and she wasn't satisfied. Insisted on making a scene in front of my wife. Why can't I settle scores with her? She seduced you. How old is she? You can't even control your own damn urges, and you have the nerve to blame it all on a woman? A rotten person like you, no wonder Elara Silverwood abandoned you." This remark hit Damian Hawthorne's sore spot, completely igniting his fury. He lunged forward like a madman, raining down blows with deadly intent. Dylan Young was beaten black and blue, his face covered in blood, unable to fight back. He struggled desperately, his flailing hand suddenly touching a liquor bottle. Driven by subconscious instinct, without time to think, he smashed it over Damian Hawthorne's head. With a loud crash, glass shards flew everywhere, causing cuts of various sizes on both men. A bloody gash opened on Damian Hawthorne's forehead, crimson blood gushing out. It dripped onto the floor, spreading into blooming flowers of blood. Chapter 16, as Daisy Young slowly regained consciousness, the scene before her terrified her to the core. Though her body was weak, she crawled forward on her hands and knees, helping up the collapsed Damian Hawthorne. She pressed her hand to his wound, trying to staunch the bleeding, and screamed at her brother in terror and despair. "Brother, call 911, hurry. Damian is bleeding so much blood." Dylan Young, enduring excruciating pain, climbed to his feet and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Then he reached out to pull Daisy Young up, his voice laced with a chilling coldness. "He's not going to die, Daisy Young, get up. From now on, you are forbidden to have any contact with him." Daisy Young shook her head frantically, refusing to let go, tears and snot mixing on her desperate and unwilling face. "No, brother, I love him, I just want to be with him, please, save him. I'm begging you." Seeing her unrepentant state, Dylan Young wanted to slap her. "If I hadn't come, you would have been strangled to death by him just now. Daisy Young, are you that debased? He only covets your body, he doesn't like you at all, haven't you realized that yet?" I know everything, but I just like him as long as I can stand by his side openly. I don't care about anything. Brother, I've never liked someone this much before, just grant me this one wish, I'm willing to die with him." Her heart-wrenching cries almost made Dylan Young cough up blood from anger. He never imagined that, after entrusting her to Damian Hawthorne for only 3 months, she would become such a love-obsessed fool. But she was his own sister. No matter how disappointed he was, he couldn't ignore her. So he forcibly suppressed his anger, crouched down, and pried her fingers loose one by one. "If you come with me now, I'll call 911. Daisy Young still refused. Dylan Young simply dragged her towards the door. "If you don't come with me, I'll kill him right now." Hearing this, Daisy Young shivered and dared not refuse any longer. She could only stand up and follow her brother, looking back every few steps as she went downstairs, her hands trembling as she dialed 911. After returning, Daisy Young was locked up again. This time, the whole family took turns guarding her around the clock, and they confiscated her phone. She lost all channels of communication with the outside world and had no idea about Damian Hawthorne's current situation. Her family members also tried to persuade her earnestly every day, doing all sorts of ideological work. But she didn't listen to a word, treating it all as an ineffectual nagging. Days passed, and she remained confined to her bedroom, almost forgetting what day it was. These days, she had trouble eating and sleeping, losing a lot of weight and looking extremely haggard. In the evening, Mrs. Young brought dinner as usual, chicken soup that had been simmering all afternoon. But as soon as Daisy Young smelled it, she couldn't help but vomit. Seeing her retching like this, and recalling that her period had been delayed, Mrs. Young's face turned pale. She hastily put down the soup, went downstairs to buy a pregnancy test, stuffed it into Daisy Young's hand, and pushed her into the bathroom. Seeing the 2 lines on the test result, Mr. Young, who had rushed back upon hearing the news, could no longer hold back. He slapped Daisy Young twice, his voice filled with sorrow and anger. 18, you're only 18 instead of studying hard, you got yourself pregnant, Daisy Young. Is this how you repay your mother and me for raising you? Have you no self-respect?" Mrs. Young, beside them, was already sobbing uncontrollably, covering her face, on the verge of fainting from crying. And Dylan Young, who had anticipated this, saw his guess confirmed. His face was so dark it looked like water could drip from it, and he chain-smoked incessantly. In the entire family, only Daisy Young still held onto some joy at the arrival of this child. She looked at the result with disbelief, a new hope slowly blooming in her deadened heart. A child? Now that Alara Silverwood, this obstacle was gone. As long as she had a child, Damian Hawthorne would definitely agree to be with her Chapter 17 a month after arriving in this new world. Alara Ashworth gradually adapted to life here. Every day, she clocked in at the company on time and, together with her colleagues, launched the Aura fashion line project. She also found her passion, enrolling in many fashion design courses, determined to become a world-class designer. In her leisure time, she went for walks, shopped, and vacationed with her mother, Miranda. Life was leisurely and peaceful. Occasionally, Miranda would also show concern, asking about the kind of life Alara had lived during those 20 years in her original world. Whenever this topic arose, Alara didn't know where to begin. She knew her mother was curious because she cared, but she didn't want to worry her mother, so she would always fall silent for a few seconds, then nonchalantly change the subject. Gradually, Miranda seemed to sense that those past events might be too painful to recall and stopped asking. Before the new year, the mother and daughter returned to their hometown. Miranda took her to visit the cemetery, and Alara met her maternal grandparents for the first time. Although she had never met the two elders, seeing the kind smiles on their tombstone photos, she felt an immense closeness. On the way back, she talked with her mother about the past, and also heard many previously unknown stories from her. In my sophomore year of college, I followed my professor into the mountains for exploration. We got separated due to heavy fog, and I was taken by something calling itself, the system, to the world where you were born. The system gave me a mission, saying that when the progress bar reached 100, it would send me back to my original world. That mission was to win over Raymond Silverwood, your father. I needed to find ways to get close to him, to help him move on from the shadow of being abandoned by his first love. I spent 3 years finally completing this mission. The day the progress bar reached 100, the system told me I could go home. At the same time, Raymond Silverwood proposed to me. I didn't know whether to stay for him or return to the world I had lived in for 19 years. I hesitated for a long time. Raymond also begged me for a long time. In the end, my heart softened, and I stayed in that world and married him. Right after we registered our marriage, I got pregnant and gave birth to you. Married life was peaceful and warm. Gradually, I forgot I was a transmigrator and prepared to stay there for a lifetime. Until you were 6 years old, your father's first love returned to the country. He promised me they were just friends while secretly sleeping with her behind my back. That woman even got pregnant. To openly replace me, she didn't hesitate to use a miscarriage as a pretext, falsely accusing me of killing their child. Such a clumsy frame-up, a simple check of the surveillance would have cleared my name, but your father only believed that woman's side of the story. At that moment, my heart completely died, and I decided to return to my own world. Before leaving, I asked if you wanted to come with Mom, but you liked the boy next door too much and wouldn't leave with me. I could only use my remaining points to exchange for a space-time necklace to leave for you. When I returned to my reality, I learned that during my 9-year absence, my father had never given up looking for me. But a week before I returned, he passed away. I couldn't see him one last time. I could only cry my heart out at his grave. I regretted it so much then. I kept thinking, if I hadn't been greedy for that bit of love and returned to my family sooner, he wouldn't have grieved for so long and wouldn't have fallen ill from overwork and died early. Those were the darkest 3 months of my life. Your grandmother stayed by my side, comforting me. I told her what I had experienced and about your existence. Your grandmother didn't doubt me. She told me you would come find me one day and urged me to pull myself together. That's how I slowly emerged from the pain. 2 years ago, your grandmother also passed away. Her last words were still about you, saying it was a pity she couldn't meet her granddaughter. I was actually very uneasy then because 20 years had passed. I thought you might have already started your own family and wouldn't come looking for me anymore. No one expected that just when I was about to give up hope, you came to my side. Even when you were lying in my arms, I still thought it was just a dream. Chapter 18, when the incident happened back then, Alara was still very young and had no idea what exactly had occurred. She only knew that on a sunny morning, after her mother dropped her off at kindergarten, she never appeared again. Everyone said her mother had harmed someone and, fearing prison, had abandoned her husband and child and run away. Even her father initially believed this, but only Alara knew that her mother was the best mother in the world. She wouldn't harm anyone, nor would she abandon her. Her mother was just disappointed in her father, so she left. That's why she never mentioned the necklace to anyone. Even when the truth finally came out, and her mother's name was cleared of the false accusations, and her father, in despair and madness, was admitted to a psychiatric hospital. She still didn't tell him that she had a way to go to her mother's world. Those who betray true feelings should bear the punishment they deserve. Alara had always firmly believed this. At the same time, she had countless times pondered. Was her mother, who had returned to her own world, happy? Did she still hate Raymond Silverwood? Did she think of her daughter? She had no way of knowing the answers. Only today, hearing her mother speak of these things firsthand, seeing the serene expression on her face. Only then was Alara finally convinced that her mother had let go. The heavy stone in her heart also lifted. She took Miranda's hand, finally opening her heart and telling her mother about what happened before she came to this world. 20 years had passed in the blink of an eye, but it took Alara 5 hours to explain everything clearly. From dusk till dark, the smile on Miranda's face slowly faded, eventually leaving only endless heartache. She never imagined that the exact same story would repeat itself with her daughter. And the person who caused her daughter the most pain was, coincidentally, the person who had made her daughter stay in that world back then. For a moment, she also felt some regret. If she had taken her daughter with her when she left, would she not have suffered such harm? But life has no ifs. So, in the irretrievable present, she could only hold her daughter in her arms without saying a word. In truth, no words were needed. Many emotions could be conveyed to each other with just an embrace. They were both people who had waded through the blood and tears of betrayal. No one could empathize with each other more than they could. The wounds that had once caused Alara unbearable pain slowly healed under her mother's care. Looking back on the past, she neither felt pain nor found it difficult to speak of. She had given her heart sincerely. She had just given it to the wrong person. The one at fault was the person who trampled on sincerity, not her. Before leaving, she had already exposed all those filthy things to the public. Retribution would surely come. That distant, unpredictable world was now a thing of the past. She had crossed the quagmire and embarked on a new journey, although she didn't know what the road ahead looked like as long as she was by her mother's side. Alara felt that everything was bright. She took her mother's hand, made a pinky promise with her, and made a pact. Let's just consider everything that happened in that world a dream. Now that the dream is over, let's not mention it again. Chapter 19. 30 days after Alara Silverwood disappeared, there was still no trace of her. She had vanished completely, just as she had promised. Damian Hawthorne had practically turned Newford City upside down, but still found no news. Every time he fell asleep, he would be plunged into terrifying nightmares. In his dreams, he could see Alara again, but her gaze towards him was colder than ice. No matter how much he cried, knelt to apologize, repented, and begged, she remained unmoved. No matter how he chased after her, she was always just out of reach, an arm's length away, yet untouchable. It was like a huge labyrinth, trapping him in place. He could only wait for the moment he woke up. But as soon as he opened his eyes and returned to reality, seeing the empty house, another kind of pain would assail his heart. For Damian Hawthorne, night and day were two different kinds of torment. He couldn't resist, only allowing himself to sink into it. He locked himself in his room. As time went on, he slowly began to lose his grip on reality, rarely having moments of clarity. Until one morning, the doorbell, which hadn't rung for a long time, chimed clearly, startling him awake. He stumbled downstairs and opened the door. The eager hope in his eyes turned dim the moment he saw his parents. Having not seen him for nearly a month, Marcus Hawthorne looked at his son's vagrant-like, dejected appearance, and the anger he had suppressed for so long finally erupted. "Two women have reduced you to this state, Damian Hawthorne. How could I have fathered such a useless thing?" Eleanor Hawthorne, beside him, saw the wound on her son's forehead and quickly tried to mediate. "All right, it's already come to this. What's the use of scolding him now? He's still our son. Say a few less words." Damian Hawthorne lowered his head, silent. Marcus Hawthorne snorted coldly and pushed past him into the house. Eleanor Hawthorne also sighed deeply. While directing people to move things in, she told him about recent events. After Vincent Preston got those shares, he colluded with several shareholders to oust the Hawthorne family members. The stock price kept falling, and many subsidiaries are facing bankruptcy and liquidation. Your father is the legal representative. To cover the losses, we had to sell off our cars and properties. Your grandfather is still in the ICU, which also costs money. The old family mansion has been sold too. From now on, our family will live together. Damian Hawthorne hadn't expected that in just a month, Vincent Preston would turn the Hawthorne Group into an empty shell. The family business, built by generations of Hawthornes, was thus ruined at his own hands. He despaired, clutching his head, his entire being consumed and devoured by guilt. He didn't even have a shred of strength left to resist. Eleanor Hawthorne knew he was feeling terrible. She patted his shoulder, wanting to offer some comfort, but didn't know where to start. Just as mother and son stood in speechless silence, a timid, familiar voice came from behind them. Damian, Auntie Hawthorne, both turned at the sound and saw Daisy Young with her parents and brother, Dylan, standing at the door. Upon seeing this family, Damian Hawthorne's face clouded over, turning completely dark. He looked at them with cold eyes, his tone full of hostility and enmity. "What are you doing here again?" Seeing his expression, Daisy Young was almost scared to tears, nervously fidgeting with the hem of her clothes, unable to speak. Dylan Young, also simmering with anger, stepped forward, shielding his sister behind him, and retorted sharply. "Do you think we want to be here? We just want an explanation, an explanation." Hearing this word, Damian Hawthorne sneered. He wanted an explanation to Chapter 20 in the dimly lit room. The two families sat opposite each other, none looking pleased. The atmosphere in the living room was incredibly tense, and no one spoke for a long time. Finally, it was Daisy Young who mustered the courage to announce the news. I'm pregnant." This sentence struck like lightning, completely shattering the dead silence. Marcus and Eleanor Hawthorne both showed expressions of utter shock, staring at her. Damian Hawthorne was so startled by this news that he shot to his feet. His eyes, sharper than blades, were filled with disbelief. "Impossible!" Hearing him deny it outright, Dylan Young couldn't sit still either, clenching his fists and confronting him. "How is it impossible? My sister has only been with you. The child is yours. It's already 2 months along. Are you still trying to deny it?" Damian Hawthorne's sluggish mind raced, calculating back in time. 2 months. That would be mid-November. That's even more impossible. He had used condoms that entire month. How could she be pregnant after some reasoning and verification? Damian Hawthorne was certain they were lying, his gaze growing even sharper. "If it's 2 months, the child isn't mine. Who knows if your promiscuous sister has been hooking up with other men outside?" Dylan Young was enraged by his insulting words and raised his hand to hit him, but Daisy Young grabbed him. Her eyes red, she looked at Damian Hawthorne, explaining with great grievance. "November 19th, Damian, you drank too much on your birthday. Have you forgotten that day?" With her reminder, Damian Hawthorne finally recalled that night of recklessness. His expression grew even darker, and he questioned her through gritted teeth. "Didn't I buy you the morning after pill? You didn't take it." "I looked it up. It said birth control pills are bad for your body, so I didn't take it, Damian. Now is not the time to argue about whether I took the pill or not. The important thing is we have a child. You." Daisy Young looked at him shyly, full of expectation, waiting for his response. But Damian Hawthorne shattered her beautiful dream with a single sentence. "Even if the child is mine, I won't keep it." Get rid of it. The entire living room fell into dead silence again due to this sentence. Mrs. Young, who had been observing for a long time, finally couldn't bear it and stood up, emotionally lashing out. "You tricked my barely adult daughter into sleeping with you, and now that there's a child, first you deny it, and when you can't, you want to abort it. You're so irresponsible. You'll face divine retribution." Hearing her mother's words, Daisy Young's tears streamed down, her voice full of pleading. "Damian, the baby is already 2 months old. When I had a prenatal checkup, the doctor said its heart has already developed. How can you bear to not want him?" Faced with her tearful pleas, Damian Hawthorne remained expressionless, unmoved. "The very first time you climbed into my bed, I warned you. We were just playing around. If you think you can use a child to threaten me into giving you a position, dream on." Mr. Young and Dylan Young's fists clenched at these words, and they grabbed his collar. "Damian Hawthorne, watch your mouth. My daughter genuinely wanted to be with you. You played with her feelings, and you won't take responsibility." Faced with the father and son's threats, Damian Hawthorne was undaunted, his eyes full of mockery. "From the very beginning, it was your sister, your daughter, who actively seduced me. She got me drunk with ill intentions and slept with me. I compensated her with money, but she pushed her luck and now wants to threaten me with a child. Why should I be responsible for a scheming woman? Dylan Young could take it no longer and punched him in the face. Damian Hawthorne wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, a fierce glint in his eyes, and raised his hand to strike back. Marcus Hawthorne, who had been sitting on the sofa, finally couldn't stand this farce any longer and shouted sharply to stop. Enough, Chapter 21, Damian Hawthorne, since you and Alara Silverwood didn't have children in 5 years of marriage, and now she's left without a word, then just get a divorce. I can't be bothered with the mess you've made. But this child must be kept. Hearing this non-negotiable tone, Damian Hawthorne instantly became agitated. I will absolutely not divorce Alara, she's just angry. Once she calms down, she'll come back. Eleanor Hawthorne never imagined that even after Alara had brought their Hawthorne family to this state, her son would still be thinking about her. She couldn't help but interrupt. Come back. So what if she comes back? Hasn't she harmed you enough? She's just like her mother. Now that she's left, how could she possibly come back? Do you want to end up like her father, spending your life in a psychiatric hospital, mad and delirious? Hearing his closest family speak such words, Damian Hawthorne felt as if his heart were being twisted by a knife. He clenched his fists tightly, his face deathly pale, yet he stubbornly refused to accept reality, still trying to argue. She will definitely come back. We were together for so many years. How could she possibly abandon me? Damian, wake up. She even canceled her civil registration. How could she? Daisy Young's attempt at persuasion was like a sharp knife, piercing Damian Hawthorne's already precarious defenses. He glared at her, his expression like that of a man about to devour her. You shut up. Even if Alara never comes back in this lifetime, I will absolutely not agree to marry you in my heart. My wife will only ever be Alara. Dylan Young's face slowly turned pale at these words. Her shoulders trembled uncontrollably, her fingers digging into her flesh, drawing blood that dripped down. An unprecedented despair enveloped her heart. For the first time, she realized what a colossal and insurmountable mountain Alara Silverwood was to her. Even if that person had evaporated from the world, she still couldn't enter Damian Hawthorne's heart. Seeing his son's almost frenzied state, Marcus Hawthorne finally lost his patience and had people lock him in his room. The living room returned to silence. Eleanor Hawthorne had someone bring fresh tea and personally handed it to the Young family, but they still didn't show a pleasant expression. Marcus Hawthorne glanced at Daisy Young, forcing a pleasant look. The Hawthorne family is not Damian Hawthorne's to command. Don't take those crazy things he just said to heart. Since the child is already 2 months along, our Hawthorne family will definitely take responsibility. Receiving this promise, the Young family's expressions finally softened somewhat. Daisy Young also quickly regained her composure, bowing slightly to Marcus and Eleanor Hawthorne. Thank you, Uncle Hawthorne, Auntie Hawthorne. Damian has just been through too many changes recently and hasn't thought things through. I understand him. I really like him, which is why I want to keep this child. I believe he will accept me and the child one day. Her display of meekness and understanding was well received by the Hawthorne elders, who had suffered one blow after another. Eleanor Hawthorne pulled her to sit beside her, carefully looking at the Young family, trying to negotiate. I've seen some of the news. My unworthy son caused such a big incident, and we have to trouble you to help clean up the mess. I'm truly sorry. Since Daisy is pregnant, let her move into our home. I'll personally help take care of her, and it will also be a good opportunity for her and Damian to cultivate their relationship. Damian isn't actually a bad person, just too sentimental. Once the child is born and he becomes a father, he'll come to his senses and properly register the marriage with you. We'll also help take care of things. Daisy Young's anxious heart slowly settled. She touched her still flat stomach, looked towards the closed bedroom door on the second floor, and a glimmer of hope rekindled in her eyes. Chapter 22, after moving into the Hawthorne home with the child officially sanctioned, Daisy Young's complexion gradually improved. Although the Hawthorne family had declined, a starved camel is still bigger than a horse. Their care for a pregnant woman was still thorough. Every day, Daisy Young would go to the second floor to visit Damian Hawthorne, bringing him desserts and fruits, whispering sweet nothings, hoping to move him with their past affection. But not only did he not appreciate it, he threw out everything she brought. He even escaped from his locked bedroom several times, trying to forcibly take her to the hospital to abort the child. Daisy Young was so scared her legs went weak. After a few such incidents, she no longer dared to bring up the past to provoke him. Days passed, and her belly slowly grew larger. At every prenatal checkup, the doctor said the fetus was very healthy. Both families were very happy, eagerly anticipating the child's arrival. Except for Damian Hawthorne. He had been locked in his bedroom for 2 months, seeing neither sunlight nor people, spending his days drinking himself into a stupor. Marcus Hawthorne was so angered by his self-destructive behavior that he nearly had a heart attack. He disciplined him many times, but Damian remained unchanged, even banging on the walls at night demanding alcohol. As time went on, they couldn't be bothered with him anymore, treating him as if they were merely housing a drunkard, as if they had never had this son. They focused all their hopes on the grandchild's arrival, lavishing care on Daisy Young. Although they weren't married yet, Daisy Young felt that the position of Mrs. Hawthorne was practically hers, and she stopped always being subservient and meek. After a checkup revealed she was carrying a boy, she became even more demanding, insisting they register the marriage first. To appease her, Eleanor Hawthorne personally went to persuade Damian Hawthorne. It's unknown what she said, but he actually listened. That evening, he tidied himself up, shaved, and came downstairs. However, when he encountered Daisy Young, his expression remained cold. He merely glanced at her and went out. His attitude wasn't good, but seeing him pull himself together still made Daisy Young happy. To win his affection, she specially learned to cook a table full of dinner from the housekeeper, intending for the whole family to eat together that evening. But the Hawthorne and Young families waited from 5 o'clock until 7, and Damian Hawthorne still hadn't returned. Seeing Mr. Young about to throw down his chopsticks in anger, Daisy Young quickly smoothed things over, and only then did they start eating. After dinner, the Young family left without even having a cup of tea. Marcus Hawthorne was also angered and went straight into his study. Daisy Young waited alone in the living room until midnight, finally seeing Damian Hawthorne return. He had drunk quite a bit but was still relatively lucid. He treated her as if she were invisible and went straight upstairs. Daisy Young wanted to help him up, but he pushed her hand away. Tears instantly welled in her eyes, and she followed him upstairs, looking pitiful. As soon as the door closed, she threw herself into his arms, tears falling like broken pearls. "Damian, it's been so long, aren't you over your anger yet? The baby will be born in a few months. Can't you forgive me for his sake?" Forgive? The moment he heard this word, a dark shadow flickered in Damian Hawthorne's eyes. Daisy Young didn't notice the change in his mood. She took his hand and guided it to her increasingly round belly. "Damian, the baby sometimes kicks me. If you don't get close to him now, he might not acknowledge you later." He didn't pull away, so Daisy Young's actions became bolder, guiding his hand upwards. When it touched that soft mound, she let out a soft moan, but Damian Hawthorne froze on the spot. He turned his head, his face cold, looking at the woman who was again putting on this pitiful act, and abruptly pulled his hand back. "Are you that desperate? I was just afraid you were, pent up." Damian Hawthorne couldn't bear it any longer. He pushed her out the door, his tone resolute. "Get out if you dare do this again. You can forget about ever marrying into the Hawthorne family." Chapter 23 days turned into weeks, and soon it was April. On the night of the 16th, after Eleanor Hawthorne's relentless persuasion, Damian Hawthorne finally agreed to register their marriage the next day. Daisy Young was so overjoyed upon hearing this news that she barely slept a wink all night. When she got up the next day and saw Damian Hawthorne dressed in a crisp suit, his hair meticulously styled, her joy was even more apparent. She supported her belly and walked to the dining table to sit down. Suddenly craving orange juice, she called for the housekeeper a few times, but no one answered. Damian Hawthorne glanced at her, then got up and went into the kitchen. Shortly after, he came out with a freshly squeezed glass of orange juice and placed it in front of her. This was the first time Damian Hawthorne had shown her a pleasant expression since she got pregnant. Daisy Young was so moved, she almost burst into tears on the spot and started acting coquettish again. "Damian, I knew you were tough on the outside but soft on the inside. You do care about me." Damian Hawthorne ignored her. His eyes were fixed intently on the glass of orange juice. Daisy Young thought he was urging her to try it quickly, so she raised the glass and took a sip. Just as she was about to praise it, she heard Damian Hawthorne's icy voice. "Drink it all." To please him, Daisy Young quickly downed the remaining half glass of orange juice. Seeing the empty glass, Damian Hawthorne showed a satisfied smile. Daisy Young also smiled, looking at him with joyful eyes. "Damian, when are we going to the Civil Affairs Bureau?" Damian Hawthorne looked at his watch, his tone indifferent. "In a bit." Daisy Young obediently said, "Oh," picked up a sandwich, and ate it in small bites. She ate attentively, not noticing that Damian Hawthorne's gaze was fixed on her belly, his expression quite intriguing. After eating half of it, she felt a bit full. Looking around, she realized that Marcus and a leaner Hawthorne, who were usually early risers, were not there today and casually asked, "Where are Dad and Mom?" "Dad, Mom. Who told you to call them that?" Daisy Young froze, looked up at him, her eyes full of grievance. "Aren't we going to register our marriage later? Can't I call them Dad and Mom yet?" Damian Hawthorne raised his left hand and adjusted the slightly crooked ring on his ring finger, his tone reverting to its former nonchalance. "Since you're looking forward to it so much, then let's not go." The smile on Daisy Young's face froze instantly, her heart suddenly racing. Not going, didn't you promise Mom, Auntie?" "I did promise, but I've changed my mind now. Can't I? Besides, you should soon lose the mood to register your marriage." Damian Hawthorne's last sentence was laced with a strange, eerie pleasure that made Daisy Young's heart pound with fear. Why did you change your mind?" Damian Hawthorne looked up at the calendar, his eyes slowly filling with reminiscence. "Because today is the 12th anniversary of when Alara and I started dating." "Why would you think I'd accompany you to the Civil Affairs Bureau on such an important day, to occupy a place that will only ever belong to her?" Daisy Young followed his gaze and saw the date circled in red. For some reason, the nausea from morning sickness, which had stopped for a long time, suddenly rushed back up. She forcibly suppressed the discomfort, her voice trembling so much it was out of tune. But the baby will be born in 5 months. He can't be without a father. Don't worry. The child won't be born." Chapter 24, Damian Hawthorne's voice was as calm as a still lake. But to Daisy Young's ears, it was a deafening crash. She instinctively shielded her belly and retreated, her eyes filled with terror and pleading. "Damian, this is your own flesh and blood. How can you bear to harm him? If Uncle and Auntie find out, they'll be furious." Seeing her cowering in the corner, terrified, Damian Hawthorne chuckled lightly. The next second, those indifferent eyes instantly became sharper than a blade. "Of course, I wouldn't do it myself. After all, I don't know my own strength. What if it ended up being one corpse, 2 lives? Your brother would probably kill me, right? After thinking it over, I still feel abortion pills are safer. What do you think?" Hearing the words, abortion pills, Daisy Young's face instantly turned deathly white. She looked at the empty glass, her first instinct to stick her fingers down her throat to induce vomiting. Watching her collapse on the floor, retching violently, Damian Hawthorne felt an immense sense of satisfaction. He stood up and looked down at her, his tall figure casting a mountain-like shadow over her. "I told you countless times you'd bear the consequences. Why didn't you listen even once? Everything I gave Alara was out of my own free will. And you're just a dog I toy with when I'm in a good mood. What makes you think you can compare to her? She was driven away by your despicable, sordid means. Did you think I would let you take her place? How could you be so stupid? The pain she endured, I will repay to you 1,000-fold, 100-fold, and let you know what it means to live a life worse than death." As he spoke the last words, Damian Hawthorne's face wore a smile, yet his eyes were filled with tears. He tilted his head up, looking at this home that was now unrecognizable, an infinite pain, like being slowly flayed, rising in his heart. He stumbled out the door, but looking around, he had no destination. He only wanted to go to Alara Silverwood's side, but he didn't know where to go. After the lights in the emergency room went out, a nurse came out to inform the family of the results. The pregnant woman ingested a large amount of abortion medication. Although vomiting was induced promptly, the fetus still absorbed a considerable amount. For the child's health, our recommendation is to induce labor, but the patient adamantly refuses. So we're here to consult with you, the family, for your opinion. Hearing this, Marcus and a leaner Hawthorne's heart sank, and they repeatedly asked, What effect will these drugs have on the child? Is there no way to save him? Apologies, due to a lack of data from clinical trials, the hospital doesn't know the specific effects. The child might be physically weaker, or there might be no negative impact, but to be safe, induced labor is still recommended. Even though the doctor had spoken so clearly, Marcus and Alina Hawthorne were still unwilling. They thought for a long time and finally decided to take a gamble and have the child. So, for the next 5 months, Daisy Young lived in the hospital. After Damian Hawthorne found out the child hadn't been aborted, he repeatedly tried to sneak in and get rid of the child. Time and time again, Marcus Hawthorne's patience reached its limit. He slapped his son hard, angrily demanding why he was trying to harm his own flesh and blood. Damian Hawthorne looked up, unresigned, his eyes wild with madness. "She is not worthy to bear my child in this lifetime. It must be Alara, and only Alara." The child was already 8 months along, and he was still going on about Alara. Marcus Hawthorne was utterly disappointed and directly had Damian Hawthorne sent to a psychiatric hospital and confined. A month later, the child was born, seemingly without any abnormalities. Daisy Young felt as though heaven had finally smiled upon her. She named the child Chester Hawthorne. Chapter 25. As the child, Chester Hawthorne, grew day by day, the Hawthorne family gradually noticed that he seemed to speak later than other children his age, but he had much more energy. They didn't pay much attention to it, thinking he was just a late bloomer intellectually, and bought many nutritional supplements for him. When Chester reached the age of 4 and could still only say simple monosyllabic words, unable to form complete sentences, they finally realized something was wrong and rushed him for an examination. Only then did they discover that the abortion pills from years ago had caused irreparable damage to the child's brain. Chester Hawthorne's intelligence would forever remain at the level of an 8 or 9-year-old child. Upon hearing this news, Daisy Young felt as if her world had collapsed. She never imagined that the child she had fought so hard and suffered so much to keep would be intellectually disabled. She cried every day holding Chester, complaining endlessly, and the Young family also frequently came to cause trouble. Alina Hawthorne, her heart heavy with pent-up frustration and grief, couldn't bear this blow and died of anger within 2 months. Marcus Hawthorne, in a fit of rage, directly kicked Daisy Young and Chester out of the house. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. Looking at the empty house, he finally remembered his unworthy son. But when he rushed to the psychiatric hospital, intending to bring Damian Hawthorne out, he received another piece of devastating news from the doctor. Due to long-term alcoholism and a deteriorating psychological condition, Damian Hawthorne had lost his sanity. Marcus Hawthorne didn't believe it, but when he entered the ward and saw the man with graying temples and a vacant gaze, he could no longer hold back his tears. What a sin, seeing the old man crying so sorrowfully, Damian Hawthorne's consciousness briefly returned. But he didn't recognize the person before him, thinking it was a fellow patient, and handed him the apple in his hand. "Why are you crying? Is it because no one will play with you? Then, when Alara comes back, we'll be your friends, okay?" Marcus Hawthorne never expected that after so many years, Damian Hawthorne was still thinking about Alara Silverwood. He reached out and took his son's hand, his voice filled with sorrow and despair. "You don't even recognize your father anymore, but you still remember Alara Silverwood." Damian Hawthorne didn't understand what he was saying. He could only catch the name Alara Silverwood, thinking she had finally returned, and immediately got up, wanting to rush out. The medical staff quickly stopped him, coaxing him back to bed with great difficulty. "You be good. Alara will be back tonight. You promised Alara this morning that you wouldn't make any noise today, okay?" Watching them coax Damian Hawthorne like a child, Marcus Hawthorne finally realized that his last shred of hope had been severed. He stooped, slowly walking out of the ward, but was stopped by the medical staff who followed him. "You are Damian Hawthorne's family member, right? We'd like to know who this Alara Silverwood he keeps mentioning is. Can we invite her to the hospital? It might help improve the patient's condition." Alara Silverwood. Looking at Damian Hawthorne, who had slowly quieted down in the room, Marcus Hawthorne shook his head. "I don't know." With those 3 words, he lifted his foot and slowly walked downstairs. Passing through the courtyard, he saw a familiar figure. It was Raymond Silverwood. Nearly 30 years had passed. He had aged beyond recognition, so frail he seemed on the verge of death, yet his mouth was still muttering a name. Miranda, Miranda. It took Marcus Hawthorne a long time to remember this person, Miranda Ashworth. She was Alara Silverwood's mother, who had suddenly disappeared one morning many years ago. So, does fate truly exist in this world? Marcus Hawthorne didn't know. But through Raymond Silverwood's current state, he could imagine what Damian Hawthorne would look like in another 20 years. As old as him, as incoherent as him, as obsessed with a name he could never forget, even in death, as him. And the ones being remembered, when would they return? They probably would never return.